Today's video is in response to a question from a viewer about what ancestral records I submitted and then what I did to prepare records that are hard to read. So today I'm going to show you an inside look at my application. We'll walk through the ancestral records that I submitted, and then I'll show you things that worked out well and what I wish I knew from the very beginning. With all that said, let's get started. In case you don't already know, I applied for proof of Canadian citizenship and included the necessary documents and payment and records to go with that application. My application was based on citizenship by descent. I'm hoping to claim Canadian citizenship through my great grandfather, who was born in Ontario in the late 1800s. I'm not a lawyer, advisor, or consultant. I'm an applicant sharing insight into my application experience. So, this is not legal or expert advice, and your experience could be different than mine. Okay, so getting started. In this video, I'm going to show you the updated version of the application guide. We'll look at this section regarding record requirements. I'll also show you a full list of the documents that I submitted with my application, just so you can see everything at a glance. And then we'll take an inside look at my ancestral records. And then I'll share why I included them and how I prepared the records that are harder to read, like census records. And then we'll look at what worked out well and what I wish I knew from the very beginning. These are the core components of the proof of citizenship application. And there have been two updates recently, one to the application guide, which was updated on June 19th, and to the document checklist, which was updated on June 17th. I'll link to these documents in the video description, just so you can look through them if you'd like to. And I'll also link to a video that I recently posted that walks through the changes to these documents in greater detail. We'll only be taking a quick look at the updated record requirements in the application guide today, just so we're on the same page. But before we do that, I also wanted to mention that IRCC has a decision-making standard that's publicly available. It's also linked in the video description. From what I read, it isn't written specifically for proof of citizenship applications or any specific application. It's written as general guidance that IRCC officers follow when they're assessing evidence and making decisions. So, for many reasons, I won't be walking through it today or attempting to interpret it in this video or any video, but I wanted to let you know that it's available to read. It covers topics like identifying relevant evidence, assessing credibility of evidence, determining whether or not the evidence is sufficient, and making a final decision. So this is the application guide. We're looking at the section that covers document requirements. This is in step 1 of the application guide. We're not going to walk through this, but I want to mention that the first item here is birth certificate, and then it goes into detail about what other records can be submitted and what steps you can take if you don't have a birth certificate. But for the purposes of this video, we're just going to focus on these two subsections. The first one is pictured here. You must provide authentic, reliable, and verifiable documents for every generation in your application and provide clear and easy to read color copies of your documents unless otherwise stated. And second, your application cannot be supported solely by third-party records, and you must include proof of parentage and Canadian citizenship for your Canadian parent, grandparent, and parental ancestor as applicable. For each person, you must provide one or more of the following documents issued by an original authority. So now that we have that fresh in our minds, let's look at the records that I submitted. This is a full list of the records that I submitted, split into two sections. If you want to see the final physical example of my application packet and why I split my records into two sections, you can watch a video that I posted which covers that in detail, and I'll include a link to that in the video description. But in this video, I'm including this list so you can see quickly at a glance the documents I included, minus the use of representative form and a letter of explanation. Those weren't necessary for me. And then in this lower section, this is what we're focusing on today, which is documents for my Gen 0 great grandparent. That's what we'll be looking at in detail. So this is the primary record that I submitted showing my great-grandfather's proof of citizenship. It's a certified copy of my great-grandfather's birth record. Their certificate for the birth record is here on the left. This is from Ontario Archives. And on the right, you can see a copy of the official Ontario birth registration with sensitive information blurred out, but it includes these details: record number, birth number, the name of the parents and the baby, the date of the birth and of the actual record when the record was taken, and then the birth location and signatures. This is my great grandfather's US naturalization petition, which I found on Ancestry.com. And although this is listed as a supporting document, it's important and it's not something that I would have left out of my application. This record showed his birthplace of Ontario, Canada. It also provided dates and locations consistent with other ancestral records. It showed his legal name change within the form. And it also showed that his family was immigrating with him, which included my grandmother. Having said that, I want to mention that there's been conversations online about whether or not US naturalization documents can signal a quote unquote break in the citizenship chain. I won't be attempting to analyze that or to predict what IRCC's determination could be about my application or any application, but I do want to acknowledge that this question has come up and to share with you why I included it, which is primarily his name change and the fact that his family members were listed. That was important for my application. I'll be sure to update you when I receive a response from IRCC. So I included a copy of the actual form itself, the first page that you saw there, and then a second copy with just a blown up portion of the form, which focused on the name change and his children. That's not pictured here. This is just kind of an example of what I'm talking about when I say a blown up portion of the form. It's just a section. And then I was able to write notes, like highlight, arrow, draw circles around important information. Or if I felt like it was still a little challenging to read, I could write in there, this says, the name change here, and just explain what the IRCC agent might be looking at. I also included a citation page for the document, which provides a text version for a lot of the information on the form, details like name, record type, birth date, family members that are listed on the form. And it includes the information needed for an IRCC agent to locate the document online and see it for themselves. I also included 2 census records. This is an example of one of them on the left-hand side here. Basically, there's a lot of detailed columns that go from left to right along the document, and then the details for each person are listed top to bottom. I'm not going to show a portion of this form that's filled out just to respect the privacy of not only my family, but other families that are listed within the document. But the reason I included 2 census records in my application was that I found it showed my great-grandfather's birth name, his birthplace. It had other important dates and locations. His family members were consistent. All of that was consistent in this census record with the other records that I was submitting, so it added credibility. I also included a second copy blown up of the section that focused on my great-grandfather's information. What you're seeing here is just a placeholder image, but basically I had that blown up image and I highlighted and circled key information, wrote notes if I needed to. And then I also included a citation page as well so that they could access the document directly if they needed to and zoom in on it and look at information that way. So as you can see, the U.S. naturalization form and the census pages were from Ancestry.com and then from FamilySearch.org, which are considered third-party sources. So I wanted to tell you that census records can be obtained from the Library and Archives of Canada, which is an original source. You can search for census records on our website as pictured here. This is just a generic name, a basic search. Or according to other applicants online, you can request a certified copy. I can't tell you which way you should go for your situation, but I did want to share with you that census records are available through the Library and Archives of Canada as well. This record is from a US original authority, but it isn't my primary record, so I included it as a supporting document. I felt like this US death certificate for my great grandfather added credibility to my application because the details confirm his birthplace, his birth date, his name, and then his parents. It also shows that his legal name was consistent throughout his life. So there's no doubt that the records I submitted were from the same person who's directly linked to me. So the updated version of the IRCC requirements that we looked at today were not available yet when I submitted my application. And my goal at the time was to put together an application that was as credible, accurate, and easy to understand as possible. And I feel like I achieved that goal to the best of my ability. And I don't have regrets on what I submitted. I feel like that's something that worked out well. Having said that, I have read a post from IRCC pictured here on their social media channel that has some general advice, including a line that advises against adding too many documents beyond what is necessary so that an IRCC agent is able to process application in a timely manner. So, with all of that in mind, I'm comfortable with my application, but I probably could have pared it down and accomplished the same goal. Another thing that worked out is regarding communication. So, pictured on the left here in his example of an application packet divided into two sections, just like the full list of documents that we saw at the beginning of the video. I wanted to show you this as an example of how communication can come in the form of notes and content lists or using sticky notes as labeled sections. All of that goes a long way in helping the IRCC agent understand your application um, and interpret the documents and the application and your information in the way that you intend them to. I also included a generational map and a cover letter, which are pictured here. The generational map is both a communication tool and an organizational tool. It shows a connection between myself and my great grandfather, and it shows the documents that I submitted, as well as the documents that I submitted for each link in my lineage, for each link in the chain, each person. And then for the cover letter, it could be, my cover letter was basic. This is a basic introduction to my application, what I included, who I was, why. But it could be written to serve as a letter of explanation if you needed to explain some documents or some inconsistencies or some of the documents you included or some documents that weren't included and why. It could be rewritten to serve as that, as a letter of explanation as well. Something I wish I knew. When I was first getting started, I did not know that ancestry sites like MyHeritage, Ancestry.com, Find My Past are all available for free through FamilySearch.org. So basically, Family Search has centers all around the US and the world where you can get help from trained staff to find records, and you can use their computers on site to access different ancestry sites. So there's way more to this than just those benefits. And I created a separate video, which I'll show you in a moment, that goes into much more detail. If you're building your application, I highly recommend that you check that video out so that you can see the many free resources and the support that Family Search provides. Another thing that I wish I knew and didn't know when I first got started was that you can get copies of birth certificates for a parent or grandparent, for example, through the town or city where the family member was born. Personally, I started off using vitalcheck.com, and then I did try to reach out to a county to get a record, but then was redirected back to VitalCheck. And then viewers in the comment section of some of my videos shared that they had success in reaching out to some of the town or city clerks. They were able to get records that way. So I wanted to share that information with you, that if you're just getting started, that might be an avenue you can go down, and it may save you some time and some money and hassle to avoid using VitalCheck. But if you want to know more about VitalCheck, you feel like that's the tool that you'll need to use to get access to documents, I do walk through how to do that and how to reduce the effort, reduce the time, as much as possible, share my lessons learned. So I'll show you that video, and I'll link to it in the video description as well. So these two videos walk you through how to find records. This one is about the general overview that talks about the Ancestry sites, using VitalCheck, Ontario archives. It walks you through all of that, and in a more detailed way. And then the right-hand side here, this video is all about finding Ancestry records, how to save time, effort, money, many of the different resources that are available. So that would be a good thing to watch too before you invest money and time and effort, so you know exactly what tools are available to you and you can get the records you need quicker. And then these videos are about the application form and the document checklist, how I completed those, and then how I assembled my physical application packet, which is that video that goes into detail about my records, splitting them into two sections and walking through the lessons learned along with that as well. And then this final video is about the IRCC changes that they made to the application guide and the document checklist recently. So if you haven't looked at that, you might find it helpful, especially if you haven't submitted your application yet. So links to all of my videos, including the ones I just mentioned, are in the video description. If this video was helpful for you, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.